Hey, this is Randy from BibleBuyingGuide.com. Today I'm taking a look at the ESV single column Thinline Bible in genuine leather from Crossway. Let's just go ahead and look at it. The genuine leather has a pressed grain, and it almost has a little bit of a rubberized feel. This is the same genuine leather that I've seen in everything they've done recently. Nothing printed on the front. This is printed in, and it's, everything's in gold. No raised ribs or anything like that. These are just printed in there. And paste down liner. It does feel interesting. It's not my favorite leather. It wouldn't keep me from using it, but it kind of feels a little odd to me when you talk about it being genuine leather. Then we have our end sheets, Smythe sewn. There's the threading. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches. Presentation page. Now these pages are matte, so they're not glossy. Marriages, births, adoptions, and deaths. And then we get into our paper. The paper itself, I think, is upper 20s or possibly 30 in GSM. I don't really know that for sure. It has a little bit of a rough texture, which I do like the texture because that helps grabbing pages and turn them really easy, even though it's thin paper. It has a little bit of a rough feel to it. No glare under direct light. We're under direct light right here, but it's not as opaque as I'd like. That would be my one complaint. It's not that opaque. And it does have line matching. Here we go with a single column, and then we have section headings in the text, and then we have but they don't stand out. Verse numbers don't really stand out that much. It's easy to just ignore them, and they're a little bit difficult to see if you're trying to find them. If you're trying to find them quick, if you're preaching or something like that. Has 3/4 of an inch margin on the outside and almost that on the inside. So a little bit of space for notes, but this helps bring the text out of the gutter. So the text itself stays on the flat part of the page, and then at the bottom we have the footnotes. The text itself is an 8-point. It does read a little bit larger than that to me because of the space between the lines, what they call the leading. That makes it easier to read. With the line matching, you do see a little bit of the text behind it, which grays out the line a little bit. And to me, that makes it a little bit more difficult to read. It's more noticeable in the poetic settings, but you'll see as we go. It has around 14 words per line, which is really good for reading, and it looks really great in the poetic settings. It's probably the best for poetry. Although this does poetry really well, there's a few places that I'd like to see a little different. Now, if we come across that, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Poetry does look good in this, though, but you can see the opacity. You can read the page behind it, that one. I do like holding this. It's easy to hold and carry and read. That's an excellent size. Let's go ahead and measure. My handy dandy little typography scale. So we have 5 3/4 by 9. By 1 3/8. Now, they call this a thin line. I won't call this a thin line. That doesn't feel like a thin line to me. I like this size. Absolutely. I love this size. This is one of my favorite sizes for a Bible. But I won't call it a thin line. Let's go ahead and weigh it. And I think if I could rename it, I would. I would just call it a personal size single column. 1 pound, 12.1 ounces. That's not bad at all. That's excellent for carry. Let's see if I can find some of that poetry I was talking about. Most of it does look really, really good. They've designed it well for the most part. Every now and then you come across a word that could have been placed on the line, but they stop the line short and then they bring the word under it. And to me that feels awkward. Like right here, I can see them going out, if they wanted to go out a little further, that would make sense. but they do seem to want to cut the line right there. So I can see that one, but some of these, I think they would have a little bit more space to do it with. I don't know. To be honest, I would go ahead and put this out here. That's what they did with the New Cambridge Paragraph Bible, and it works for me. Like this one could have been there, but now, you know, they do want to leave a little bit of margin. I can understand that. There are a few that would have been too long. Like right here, you know, that would have been too long. But there are a lot that would not have been too long. And I think that they should have, like right here, I think they should have put that word here and that word here. But, you know, that's really it. My main complaint is the opacity of the paper, and then the poetic setting is my second. Now, some have complained about it not having references. This is not a reference edition, and you shouldn't have a reference edition in every single Bible. For one thing, that helps this focus on the text. And I personally prefer that. I don't use the references that often. I prefer to use other sources for references because they're limited. They're always limited. And this one doesn't have a concordance either. So if you're looking for a reference edition with a concordance, this is not for you. But if you're looking for something that is just a good carry Bible, a good reading Bible, and you don't mind a little bit of show through on the paper, this is an excellent choice. Black letter. Let's just keep on going here. Black letter edition. And then in the back, we go straight from the text to our tables of weights and measure, or table of weights and measures, and then our maps. Now the maps are also on the same non-shiny paper that we found in the front, matte paper. Let's see, we have World of Patriarchs, the Exodus from Egypt, 12 Tribes of Israel, Israel under Saul, David, and Solomon, Jerusalem in the time of Jesus, so Palestine in the time of Jesus, Paul's first and second missionary journeys, and then Paul's third missionary journey and his voyage to Rome. So that's our look at the single column they call a thin line, but I'm not. It does have a single ribbon, and it has black and gold head tail bands. So let's go ahead and do some comparisons. We might as well do some comparisons. First thing I'm going to compare it to is the Preaching Bible. The ESV Preaching Bible. Now, quality is a little bit different. The Preaching Bible is a higher quality edition. They're both made in China. But the Preaching Bible has better quality paper. And, of course, a better quality cover. But there's how they look. That's how they compare. They have basically the same design, except the Preaching Bible has a larger margin. So let's go ahead and... Now, they're not the same. It does not have the same pagination. Not by any means. So let's go to Jeremiah 15. So this is its own setting. It doesn't match anything else. I will zoom. Maybe you can see the paper and print quality. But there's how they compare. A bit of a cat hair there. Guess where that came from. Another I want to compare to is the ESV Clarion from Cambridge. Now this one has a smaller footprint, but is a lot thicker. They feel about the same weight. If anything, I think the Clarion might be heavier. The Clarion has higher quality paper. It's 28 GSM, but it's end opaque, so it's a better paper. Not as much show through. It's a little bit of a coated feel, where this is just a rough feel. You can tell the quality of the paper a little bit by its coating and a little bit by holding it up to the light, and you'll see the little speckles through it. Whereas this is cleaner, smoother. You'll see a little bit more through this. But the font size, actually, to me, this one looks larger, even though this one's an 8.75. I would almost call this is close to a 9. They call it an 8, but it looks closer to a 9 to me. But this one's a reference edition. Clarion is, whereas this one's better for reading as long as you have good enough light. If you have the right light where the show through is not bothering you, this one is actually better for reading because you don't have all the interruptions in there, except for just a few for the footnotes. So here's how the text compares if we zoom a little bit. This one almost does look a little bit larger. But there's how they compare. And of course, the Clarion does have concordance and then maps with an index. Now let's look at a true Thinline. This is the real deal right here. That is the Heirloom Thinline edition from Crossway. Same as before, I'm not going to compare the materials. This has the same 28 GSM end opaque, but there's the layout comparison. And let's compare here. So you can see the difference in how thin they are. That's a Thinline all day long. That one I'm not going to call a Thinline. Let's zoom, do some zoomage. So there's how they compare, how their text compares. And the last one I want to compare is the Legacy, one of my favorite Bibles. The thickness is the same. So close to the same that it might as well be the same. The thickness is pretty much the same. The footprint is noticeably different, but thickness is right at the same. You know, they're both single column, but they handle a few things differently. Where the single column edition Thinline has the section headings in the text, the Legacy has them in the margins. Now this Legacy, of course, also has the same paper as all the other Heirloom editions. So this is the 28 GSM end opaque, while this one is either 20 or 30 GSM, 28 or 30 GSM, but it's not end opaque. It's not the coated, not the nicer paper. So let's compare. Let's go to Isaiah 53. So there's how they look compared to each other. We shall zoom. Take a look at the prose sections. There's how they look. The texts seem to be about the same size, pretty close to the same size. It has about the same characters per line. Just about the same amount of lines per page. Pretty close, really close. This is just a smaller footprint. I would like to see this Bible with this paper. So that's our look at the single column Thinline edition of the ESV from Crossway. Crossway did provide this in exchange for an honest review. I would love to see this Bible with better paper. If I can make one change, it would be increase opacity. I actually like the texture of the paper because I like being able to grab it and move it, you know, turn pages easy. But I don't have any trouble with end opaque, especially after you've used it for just a little bit. If your paper has a coating, then it needs to get a little bit of use on it before it's easy to turn. But any of them can be difficult to turn if you're having trouble with your hands that day. But this is easy paper to turn. I just wish it was a little bit more opaque. If I can make one change, it would be a little bit more opaque. But I do recommend this Bible if you can live with that amount of show through. Some lighting might be better than others also. But I will post some links in the notes so that you can make a purchase, and you can see the written review at BibleBuyingGuide.com. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.